In 1924, a private banking consortium in Geneva sealed a set of internal wealth rules, and not one of those rules has ever been made public. No financial historian has reproduced the document. No heir has ever described it on record. By the end of this, you will understand exactly what that rule is and why publishing it would collapse the system that made them rich. The families we are talking about are not celebrities. They are not tech founders. They are names you would not recognize, and that is entirely by design. They have held the same private banking accounts for 4 and 5 generations. Some of those accounts were opened before the Great Depression, before 2 world wars, before the Federal Reserve existed. These families did not build wealth by playing the same game as everyone else. They built it by refusing to touch what they already had, by never showing it, by following a single internal discipline passed from parent to child in conversations that were never written down, never recorded, and never shared outside the bloodline. Here is the first thing you need to understand. Old money does not grow. It does not compound. It does not invest in trends. It holds. The Rothschild family, one of the most documented old money dynasties in recorded history, has maintained core real asset positions continuously since the early 1800s. Not for decades, for 200 years. The version you hear in public is the "buy when there's blood in the streets" quote. Everyone repeats it, but that is the surface. The actual discipline runs deeper. Researchers who have gotten close to these family structures describe an internal rule that governs not what they buy but what they refuse to sell, ever, under any circumstance. No matter the panic, the crash, or the crisis, the position does not move, and that is the detail nobody can account for. The mainstream explanation is simple. Old money families are conservative. They diversify. They hire good advisors. This is the answer you get from any economics textbook, any wealth management firm, any financial journalist who has tried to explain multi-generational fortunes. It sounds reasonable until you look at the numbers. Of all the wealth created in America before 1900, only 3% remains in the hands of the same family lines today. 3%. The rest dissolved within 3 generations. The shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves pattern tracked across every culture and every century. So diversification and conservative management is not explaining the survival of old money. It is explaining why almost all of it disappeared. Something else is keeping the 3% intact, something that does not appear in any public-facing advice. Now watch what happens when you follow the trail. In 2003, a private wealth researcher spent 3 years inside ultra-high net worth family offices, the private institutional arms that manage generational fortunes. She documented a pattern the families themselves called the anchor rule, not her term, theirs. Every old money family she studied maintained one core asset class that the family had agreed, internally and formally, would never be liquidated. Not in a recession, not in a divorce, not in a tax crisis, not to fund a business venture. Never. The anchor was not always land. It was not always gold or commodities. For some families, it was a private business interest held since founding. For others, it was a concentrated position in a single institution going back generations. The specifics varied. The rule was identical. The anchor is never touched, and the covenant governing it is never written down. Passed through instruction, not paperwork. And here is what makes this impossible. Every financial advisor in the modern era is legally required to recommend diversification, which means the single most effective wealth preservation strategy in recorded history is one that every certified professional is structurally required to advise against. That contradiction has been sitting in plain sight since 1924. Think about what that means. The financial advice industry, the books, the funds, the certified planners, the television segments, is built around a model that is structurally incompatible with the strategy that actually preserves wealth across centuries. Not because the advice is wrong for most people, but because following it ensures that most wealth eventually disperses, cycles back into the market, and gets managed again by the same institutions collecting fees on both ends. Old money does not pay management fees on its anchor. It does not rebalance it. It is not reported in ways that trigger advisory oversight. The anchor sits outside the system, and the system has no incentive to describe it clearly. Every time a family fortune dissolves in the third generation and gets redistributed through estates and asset sales, someone on the other side of that transaction collects. The dissolution of old money is not a tragedy to everyone involved. For certain institutions, it is a business model. So here is the question that has never been answered. If the anchor rule is real, and 3% survival across a century says it is, then someone chose not to publish it. Every heir who knew. Every advisor who got close, every researcher who documented it, all of them stayed quiet. Ask yourself why, and ask yourself who benefits most from the fact that you are only hearing about this now.